With us, let's check out the top stories in the papers this Thursday, starting off with the Nation newspapers. Of course, the lead story continues to be the latest on the flooding across several parts of the country. Of course, Borno State is still in the news as now President Tinubu okays 108 billion naira for states to tackle flooding as well as erosion. And on the Borno floods in particular, it said that 1 million residents are displaced by what's been called the National Calamity Dam burst in Maiduguri. All right, other stories read: on Ajero controversy, ex-envoy cautions UK TUC on Nigeria-British ties. Court grants 10 million naira bail each to 10 protesters on trial. And there's a report on why the federal government fixed the compressed natural gas at 230 naira per kilogram. Check all the details there from the Nation. The Punch reads: 1 million persons affected, 414,000 residents displaced in the Borno floods as death toll hits 30. Victims sleep on streets. NEMA opens 9 IDP camps. Bayelsa flooded after downpour. And there are pictures to that effect on how Nigerian army officers also embarked on a rescue mission of the flood victims in Maiduguri on Wednesday. Student loan beneficiaries laments delayed allowance. Hunger protesters get 100 million naira bill barred from further demonstrations. FG to register untitled lands. Mpox outbreak spreads to 23 states. And on the subsidy issue, marketers, refiners demand total subsidy removal. That's all on the Punch. This Nigeria is also reporting on a reflection, yet another reflection of the Borno floods, saying, according to Governor Zulum, 37 dead bodies recovered as agency evacuates trapped victims in the capital city. And there are some responses, there are some reactions, I should say. Pandef raises concerns over coastal areas, and for Vice President Shetima will partner states to combat flood disaster. Ahead of the Edo Gobo race, INEC registers 2.6 million voters, is set to deliver materials to the central bank. NLC says DSS didn't invite its leader, Ajero, before arrest. And from the quarters of the Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria records 6.9 trillion naira trade surplus in the second quarter of the year. Daily Trust reads, still on the floods in Borno State, 1 million persons affected, more than 30 others confirmed dead. Federal government offers 3 billion naira support. Now, other stories there. Key takeaways from Harris-Trump debate, that's in the U.S. ahead of the presidential election in the United States. Afenifere Gani Adams criticized President Tinubu over hardship. More troops in Zamfara as Turuji's 30 million naira levy deadline lapses. Daily Independent says, still amidst the ravaging floods in the country, food scarcity hits Maiduguri as tomato farmers lose 1 billion naira. We rescued 719 victims on trees, rooftops. The State Emergency Management Authority reveals there 49 killed, 226 communities affected in Kano floods. FG markets $100 billion creative economy growth plan to cooperate Nigeria. We're moving back to Abacha days if not careful, says Afenifere. NCDC warns of imminent surge of Lassa fever, confirms 983 cases. And NLC debunks allegation that Ajero snubbed DSS invitation. Finally, with me is the Leadership newspaper, which says that Kano education reform, inspiration to other northern states. That's according to stakeholders. Get the details there. Ahead of the Edo governorship election, PDP may not sign peace accord, says Obaseki. 9 die in Kano Zaria road crash. FG partners traders to curb consumer exploitation. And petrol jacks Nigeria's import bill to 12.5 trillion naira in the second quarter of the year. Theophilus.
Of course, from my side, it says Daily News Hub says Borno flood emergency agency rescues 719 from rooftops, 3-story buildings, as divers used ropes, tubes, other improvised facilities to carry out rescue operations. 1 million people affected, says Governor Zulum. Edoguba being neutral during forthcoming general election, group warns police, accuses force of backing Edo APC on arresting PDP members. Ajero was never invited by DSS before his arrest, says NLC. You've disappointed those who saw you as Messiah, Gani Adams writes Tinubu. Nigeria's oil production rose to 1.35 million barrels per day, that's according to OPEC. This and many more in the Daily News Hub newspaper this morning. We move to the Voice of Liberty. It says there, Borno flood disaster, Liberty TV radio chairman commiserates with Borno people. PDP calls for investigation into alleged fraud in Kebbi's NG Cares funds disbursement. 2027, Jonathan won't run for presidency, says wife. DSO Abuja Court bars NBC from interfering in Nigeria's analog to digital TV transition. Of course, this is in Voice of Liberty newspaper this morning. The New Telegraph says, flood. NCDC warns of possible disease outbreak in Borno, other states. As flood cuts off 5 Kaduna communities, protect those living in floodplains, Pandef tells federal government. APC seeks humanitarian assistance for victims. Federal government will partner states in combating menace, says Shatima. Presidency, National Assembly devising strategies to assist victims, says Abbas. Open letter to the president. There's need to tell Tinubu Nigerians are suffering, says Gani Adams, says he stands by his words. 20 aspirants for Kano LG pool failed drug tests, as according to the NDLEA. That's in the New Telegraph this morning. The blueprint says flooding. Pandef raises alarm over imminent dangers in coastal states. APC, Akpabio, Abbas urged federal government, states and humanitarian challenges. Terrorism providing cover for other criminal activities in Nigeria, says CDS. September 21st, Edoguba, RGP deploys 35,000 personnel, 8,000 others, bans vigilante corps. Obaseki kicks as parties sign peace accord today. INEC talks AFCC, ICPC and vote buying above Benin order spiritual cleansing. We move to the platform times. Political assassins operate under cover of terrorists, says Nigerian Army Chief. LP urges EFCC NSA to probe Obi Isufu, Afenifere over campaign funds. 2027, Jonathan won't run for president, ex-First Lady Patience. Oyo, 10 killed, 3 injured in farmers' herders clash, as NEMA. Out of school menace, Ogun government reiterates commitment to free education. Let's move now to the First News newspaper. Tensions soar in Zamfara. More troops deployed as bandits leader urges 30 million naira levy deadline passes. Chaos in Maiduguri. 286 inmates escape amidst catastrophic floods. Police pulled VIP security, deployed 35,000 officers for Edo election. The Daily Times says financial institutions must be part of counter-terrorism efforts, says NSA. Tinubu will land Nigeria safely from turbulence, says Akume. Reps move to address non-implementation of directive to remove universities from IPPIS. Food sufficiency remains federal government's priority, says Minister. NLC, DSS never invited Ajero before arresting him. Nigerian News Direct says imports decline as Nigeria records 6.9 trillion naira trade surplus in quarter 2 of 2024. Exports rise by 201% in 1 year as crude oil dominates. Tax collection hits 2.47 trillion naira up 150% in Q2 2024. Diphtheria outbreak. NCDC raises alarm as Nigeria records over 7,000 cases, 309 deaths. Creative economy. Minister hosts investors. Unveils strategy to generate $100 billion yearly revenue. Salient Times says Nigeria's export rises by 201% in 1 year. As crude oil dominates, says NBS. Borno flood. Evacuation of dead bodies, trapped persons commences in Maiduguri. UN warns against cholera outbreak, malnutrition in IDP camps. Flood. Borno Sema rescues 719 victims. The Guardian says here, policing amid lean resources, federal government spent 131 billion naira subsidizing VIPs protection yearly. Of the 400,000 policemen in the country, 150,000 officers are attached to VIPs and unauthorized persons. Of course, it's have a graph of the average and Nigeria Police Force basic pay as monthly, and the Nigeria Police Force budget in the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Next story, bureaucracy, how not to promote child adoption policy. Flood, over 280 inmates escape from Maiduguri Correctional Center. That's in the Guardian newspaper this morning. Finally, with me, Sporting Life newspaper. Mourinho roars, I will buy fantastic Osimhen. Says, if I were in a club that could spend 70 to 75 million, I will buy him. CAF Player of the Year, Lookman faces Diaz battle. Chelsea ownership rift exposed and explained. Greenwood wins Marcel POTM award. Jordan declares, Akibi, worst signing I ever made for Palace. Eguavoen remains the big boss, says NFF. Westerhoff recommends Siasia. We have this and many more in the Sporting Life newspaper this morning.
All right, Theophilus, there you have it. All the papers, well, most of the papers there. Of course, there's still a lot for you to read up on as you go forth in your day's activities. A story I apparently missed on the front page of the Leadership newspaper is this story. Theophilus, you did the story on open defecation.
Yes.
And it's talking about Nigeria losing $1.5 billion to this unhealthy, unwholesome practice. And Nigeria, you know, bears a very unwholesome burden in addition of being the #1 country that practices, you know, open defecation. And now with this humongous amount of dollars that the country is losing due to health issues, having to treat these issues, reduce productivity, cost of medical treatment, loss, premature deaths linked to the diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, and malnutrition. There does indeed seem to be a lot for the governments to do to curb this practice.
Yes, it does seem to be a lot. I'll give like when I did the report, I had to go to the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, the culvert there, and you see people using that place to defecate, and it's quite a gory sight when you're driving on the expressway. Daily, yes. I speak with some people and they say they have to match some feces when they're trying to cross the road. It's quite a gory sight for a lot of us driving there and all of that. So this needs to be addressed. The Lagos State government has addressed its own parts, going all the way to Beja Axis, but the part going into Ogun State is still a mess. Still
needing regulation, but we hope that Lagos will also, you know, drive more examples in this.
You can't even do that there because you'll be arrested. They've arrested a few persons there before, so you'll get arrested.
All right, we hope that this will continue and all the essential services needed, you know, for people to do, you know, their businesses will be, you know, available for everyone. We'll take a